I'm Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J. Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C. Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.
I do this day in and day out, all night long. Yeah. This is all I think about. This is all I care about. Y'all all I care about. Let's go, man, it's here. We televised, so you know we gotta show out. Yeah. They talking junk, so you know we gotta put them to sleep. Yeah. Let's go, man. Let's go. Don't play. We do this every day. We work too hard, day in and day like I told y'all. They don't do what we do. They don't do what we do. They never done what we did.
To the races, can they catch him? No, they can't. Touchdown.
Welcome back to another episode of the Devy Royale, a member for the Going for Two family. I appreciate Christian and Jeff for hanging on for me last week. I could not move or talk, but it was a great diet plan. I lost a bunch of weight, so I just let you know, 5 pounds, baby. Today on our show, we're going to be covering spin games, current Devy ADPs, whether we like them to be too high, too low, just right where they're at, picking winners in sports around the country. And when I've been around the country, we are going all over the place and discussing our contenders and pretenders for the college football championship. But before we do that, let's look at any recent updates in the transfer portal. So let's talk about some transfer chaos. And I think the biggest news is our guys, Eric Gilbert from LSU, Florida, and now he's at Georgia. And I know we touched on it a little bit last week, the guys did, but the biggest kind of news was that he may be changing his position to wide receiver, which would hurt Jeff, right, Jeff? How do you feel about this wide receiver change from, or his tight end change to wide receiver?
I don't like it. I don't want it to happen. I don't like it. I took him too early in my C2C draft, and I've been regretting it ever since. And he's been bouncing around, and I've just been praying that he's going to be eligible and on the field in the fall. And the idea that he's going to be a wide receiver, I'm going to be heartbroken. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not good for our Devy rosters, right, or our C2C rosters. We were talking about it pre-show that, I mean, that might happen to Kyle Pitts. It's just going to be at the NFL level. At least if it happens with Gilbert, you'll know, right? Like, so you'll know going into the NFL on your dynasty rosters. But, you know, I don't want it to happen either. I don't have too many shares because I thought he was a little overpriced anyway. Sorry, Jeff. But
you added me, so I appreciate it.
I did, yeah. But you know, I think you'd be pretty sad if he ends up a wide receiver. So,
I mean, he's gonna get targets. I hope he's eligible. First of all, like, let's hope that he can figure that out. And I mean, that Georgia offense, if Pickens was healthy, but even without Pickens, it's actually shaping up to be pretty interesting with Burton there. Darnell Washington, who I think is overvalued, but I think he's going to be there with the running back crew. I think it helps JT Daniels, right? And we've been talking about JT Daniels on this show a little bit. He really doesn't have any more excuses if Gilbert can play. I think that's going to be the huge one. But this is also the risk of playing Devy, right, guys? Like, you never know what's going to happen. You take Gilbert, you think he's going to be tight end one, and now he's a wide receiver.
Yeah. Or you take a wide receiver and he ends up a linebacker. So,
you know, Billy Bowman from Oklahoma is apparently an athlete, but now he's a defensive back. So I'm out. You know, the C2C adventure, this 2-month-long excursion of a draft that we've been going on has just been pitfalls and at every turn. So I've been enjoying it, learning a lot, and I highly recommend anybody try it out that hasn't done it before because you will learn a lot. But it is a slog.
Wait, your draft's still going? Like
our draft is still going. We just celebrated today 2 months of the draft going on, and we are in round. I think we're around 39 maybe now. So
No wonder why Christian lost all his hair. All right, so now let's talk about our next guy. And this is a kid I actually really like. Alabama running back Keelan Robinson. He's actually not – I mean, he's an Alabama running back, so he was a 5-star, 4-star coming in. He hasn't really got a lot of play. That depth chart's pretty big there. He's heading to Texas, and they have an opening-ish. I mean, they got Bijan there, but they're going to need to run it with somebody else. What do you think of this, Christian?
I like it. I mean, I remember seeing the transfer news by 24/7. They tweeted it out, and someone was in the comments saying, "Oh, he was going to have a big year." No, he wasn't. He wasn't going to touch the field. And so, at least, I think he acts as like the change of pace back for Bijan. I also think that he's going to be able to get on the field because they're not going to want to run Robinson into the ground, even though that's probably their best game plan to win. I definitely think this helps him mostly. I mean, I think this definitely helps his NFL prospects. Former Alabama guy that might go out and show something. I like it. Now, in terms of like his value, I don't know, because I just don't know what kind of workload he's definitely going to get. It's definitely going to be more than Alabama, but will it be enough to matter? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I was surprised because I kind of thought that he would go with Mike Loxley up to Maryland. I think he's local to the Maryland area. And so going to Texas, we go back, we talk about the Jameson Williamson transfer. We talk about some of these other transfers, Keontae Ingram, obviously. It just does kind of seem like once guys get a taste of the blue blood life, that they kind of enjoy that blue blood life and they kind of shift around and look for potentially the best possible landing spot to stay kind of in that upper echelon of college football. And it doesn't seem like a lot of these guys move from bigger programs just to a smaller program in order to obtain playing time.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, especially when you're looking at Alabama, right? Like, and it's got to be the Sark thing too. Like Robinson, they have that connection with Sark. I actually think it's a good move for him if he's going to get it anyway and he's going to run there. So I agree. I think Texas is building something. If they can figure that quarterback position out, if depending on who wins that battle this year and kind of where they're going, I don't think it's going to be this year. But Sark's going to get him going, and he's a good coach. We know that. He just got his personal stuff. Now, and the third guy that I want to talk about, because I actually like his tape, and I've watched way too much of it. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me, but I was watching Kenyon Sims. He actually transferred from Illinois. He did nothing in Illinois. His career rushing average or his yards was 56, which is not great, as we would like to say in the Devy world. But he's going to San Jose State, and he's going to get playing time. So is he at all a C2C guy for you, Jeff, or do you even know who this is? Or is he valued at all?
I did dive into Illinois' depth chart last week during my C2C draft, looking for maybe some under the radar guys. It's interesting. It just kind of seems like we know Brett Bielema is going to run a certain type of program. And so I'm guessing that maybe he wasn't headed for playing time and maybe he just wasn't really buying into the Brett Bielema system and decided to go elsewhere. Whether or not you probably would be the local expert on this one and whether or not he's stepping into significant playing time with San Jose State. Obviously, this is almost the opposite of what we talked about the last move with Keelan Robinson, staying kind of in that same tier. This is a guy going from a Big Ten school to a lower division, a G5 school, and likely, I would imagine, for playing time.
Yeah. Christian, do you know anything about it?
No, I mean, I think he's got some decent size. I think, like you said, we haven't seen the production. I think the opportunity is definitely there. I mean, if he's available in this C2C draft, I still have an opportunity to go draft him about 5 rounds worth. So I might take a flyer because, I mean, I like some of those San Jose State guys. Trey Walker was a favorite of mine before he was like one of the least athletic dudes in the world. So yeah. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens.
I mean, I will say it is a good point when you look at like the roster of San Jose State. They turned around a little bit there. The coach did well. They had a hell of a year last year. Their running back depth chart, I mean, the Tyler Nevins, Khari Robinson, those guys are there still, but there was nothing that stood out. There was a committee and most rushing yards 525 from that depth chart. So if someone like he can come in here and he can definitely if Sims can come in here and get some playing time, he's worth it. Maybe a waiver wire pickup in the middle of your C2C drafts, depending on where it's at. Devy, no, but C2C, you never know, especially these lower level schools where you win the leagues at. And so we could go from there. So those are your transfer news. The biggest thing is Jeff is screwed because Eric Gilbert has decided he's going to be a wide receiver. and we'll see what Keelan Robinson does there. But we're going to go to spring football now, and we're going to be looking at the reactions that we had and going through some of them. And we're going to start with kind of a sleeper team, I think, in the Big 12. But TCU, Christian, what did you see with TCU?
Yeah, we actually did touch on them a little bit. Conference breakdowns. Max Duggan, he looks sharp. He was a better decision maker, which was like one of the main things he needed to clean up. And he's definitely locked in as the starter for 2021. The coach has definitely backed him. And while he hasn't looked great, I do think he did improve from 2019 to 2020. And that was a weird year. So I'm excited to kind of see if he can take that next step. I don't know if he has NFL potential, really. I mean, he might have NFL backup potential right now, but he looked good. And he peppered Quentin Johnston with targets. So I think I saw PFF tweet out that he's like a breakout candidate. Well, I don't think that's news to anyone. I think a lot of people are in on Quentin Johnston. He made some very nice catches across the middle. He had a really nice, it was like a one-handed grab across the middle or something like that. It's been a while since I watched it, but he was very, very good. And Zach Evans, I know people are up and down on Zach Evans these days, but he looked good. He did fumble the ball again, which is like the thing I did not want to see that. That's the worst possible thing that I could have seen. And then he followed it up with a 75-yard touchdown, which we know that's what he's going to be good at. He's very explosive. He looked it. I'm excited to see what he can do. Jeff, did you have any thoughts about TCU?
It's a team in transit. I don't know. Gary Patterson, I couldn't imagine him losing his job at TCU, but it feels like they're a long ways away from where we saw them with Trayvon Boykin and with Josh Doxson pushing for a college football playoff bid. And it really does seem like they are on the precipice of a make or break year here. Zach Evans certainly has his stands. And I think it's interesting because I know you guys are both very high on him, but I also know you guys are kind of low on Eric Gray. And so watching Zach Evans kind of reminds me of Eric Gray in the sense that they're very strong athletes and they just need to get there in terms of the running back instincts of just kind of rounding out that. Obviously, Eric Gray's got another year of experience on top of Zach Evans, and Zach Evans' first year being a COVID year, it's tough to really judge there. I know the Big 12 had closer to a normal season than some other parts of the country. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Zach Evans, Quentin Johnston, and having an experienced quarterback can propel Gary Patterson back to being at the top of the conference. It's available, but my concern is that if they don't do it very quickly, that what Sarkisian is going to do in Texas is he's going to position them here in the next couple of years, and it's going to kind of go back to being that Texas and Oklahoma just battling back and forth at the very top of the conference. And so it's really a make or break spot right now for Gary Patterson's program.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think the Zach Evans, the Gray thing, I don't know. We could go to Christian here in a second. I think Evans is more of a big game break threat. Like, he's going to take it to the house, 75-yard touchdown. I don't know if Gray has that. I don't know if he has that cylinder. But I'm down on Gray compared to I know Jeff is. Jeff's a little higher than me, but I like Evans. I think Duggan is a good value. He's going like in the 28th to 32nd round of C2C league. So that's not bad for a guy that, probably is going to have a lot of volume. He's definitely they're going to throw a ball a lot. I'm sure Quentin Johnston knows places. But that would be my only thing about the Gray and Evans comparison is that I think Evans has that next level, that next step, and he can get to those places. Gray, I think, is limited. But again, I'm kind of on the outlier on Gray.
Yeah, and I think like some of the things that I see specifically with Gray are he lacks patience and he just wants to get the ball and go. And Evans does that too. But like you said, Jeff, I think having that one more year of experience, I think that's going to help Evans. Now, if we don't see a ton of growth from him this year, then I think that's when I'd start to worry a little bit. But in terms of what he can do with the ball in his hands, like I don't know that I think I have him at RB3 in that class right now, just because he's so explosive. So I'm just very excited to see. I think this offense is going to be fun to watch. And they like you said, they have to make a push in the Big 12 or he's probably in trouble. So
Yeah, so that's TCU, which I think that they're going to have a good year, at least offensively. I think defensively they've struggled the last couple of years, which is weird for a Gary Patterson team. It's kind of flipped, but now we have that kind of low-level defense. Well, we gave the best game to Jeff. He watched Michigan State something. As a Michigan fan, I will say that it was a weird Michigan State kind of spring game type thing. Is there anything at Michigan State that we need to really worry about in terms of Devy or C2C?
So I sent a tweet when I was doing my assignment watching this game that it just the vibe. So being here in the Midwest and being in Big Ten country and being in a certain time zone that, you kind of get these noon games and the 1 o'clock games, and you've got the kids are fed and the one of them's taking a nap, and you just start to get quiet a little bit and you flip on that ESPN2, Michigan State playing Northwestern Big Ten game, and you just kind of take a nap. And that was the vibe that I got out of Michigan State spring game. I was ready to take a nap a little bit off that game. Kenneth Walker coming in, the transfer from Wake Forest, I think he's kind of going to seize the backfield. I don't know if he's a guy that I really project to being any sort of impact at all at the NFL level. I do expect that he would be the bell cow potentially with Michigan State. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Quarterback situation is very up in the air with Peyton Thorne and Anthony Russo. And again, this was kind of just like it was a very organized staged practice, so much that we didn't really get a game out of it. And there was a lot going on, a lot flying around. And I read some of the firsthand accounts, and they basically said that the Big Ten coverage didn't do it justice on what was really happening. Out of the quarterbacks, it seems like Russo's a little bit more of the athletic guy, whereas Thorne's more of the athletic guy, and Russo's kind of more experienced. And then wide receiver core, Jaden Reed, I think he looks like he's going to be the number one wide receiver. I know there's Cade McDaniels, the guy that's got some attention, and there's a couple other wide receivers down the depth chart that people are a little bit interested in. But again, this goes back to just kind of like TCU. I believe what Mel Tucker is doing there. I think he's trying to bring an SEC model of recruiting. He's got the experience down in Georgia. He had some experience with Ohio State, so he's got a great idea with the Big Ten. Whether or not Michigan State's ready to get there anytime soon, or whether they're just kind of going to be that 6-6 team that still figures out a way to beat Michigan because Jim Harbaugh. But, Kevin, I'd love to hear your in-state thoughts here.
Yeah, I would. I wish I could talk shit, but I can't because of what happened last year. But what I will say is, as far as Devy goes, if you're drafting Kenneth Walker or Elijah Collins in Devy, that's just a wasted pick. You just throw that crap in the trash because I don't see that being that's just not a good value at any point. Like, that's the kind of guy you draft in the depleted draft and rookies. Like, don't waste your Devy picks on guys like that. The only guy I like on this team is Jaden Reed, and that was just because I liked what he did at Western Michigan before he transferred. He was dynamic at Western Michigan, and he had almost 800 yards, 8 touchdowns as a freshman, and he was legitimately a good prospect. Then he transferred to Michigan State. They kind of went over their turnover, so I think he kind of got lost in the flux, and he had to sit out because of NCAA stupid. So now he came back in COVID, didn't have that good year. So he's a guy to watch. I think but missing basically 1.5 seasons has got to be rough, especially with how the season was. So he was the only Devy guy that I think you could take a shot on. But even then, I don't even know if he's worth in a Devy draft. C2C, yes, but that's about it.
Yeah. With Jaden Reed, I mean, I think analytics people are going to love this kid because he broke out at 18, which is, I mean, that's a great breakout age. I also think that we need to factor in that 1.5 years because, I wasn't ultra. I guess I needed to see it at the Big Ten level. Obviously, I'm also impressed by what he did at Western Michigan, but we need to see it. And I don't know that he's going to have the opportunity with that quarterback situation, like you said. So I'm intrigued, but I also I probably wouldn't invest too heavily in him in a Devy draft. Now in C2C, if he's the one, I definitely want to share it too. And I almost snagged him in this one, but changed my mind. I don't remember who I picked instead, but yeah, I don't love this team at all. So not too much good to say.
No, I mean, as far as Devy goes, we can just move on. I covered Stanford, and I think Stanford's okay. They're going through kind of a weird flux too with Shaw. There's a quarterback battle kind of. Jack West is there. Tanner McKee is someone I wrote about recently. He went on his mission. He came back last year, and now it's looking like he's there. He was one of the top 5. He was a third-ranked quarterback going into there with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, and now he has eligibility. I like Tanner. He threw a touchdown. He looked okay, but again, game speed is going to be tough for him. That guy hasn't played a football game in like 3.5 years, basically. So what I liked about him, I like that. Tanner's going in the late 30s, 40s, okay, so in the early 40s in some C2Cs. It's not a bad stab in the dark if you can get him, because he could be a starter on Stanford. I do love their running backs, though. Austin Jones is someone who has intrigued me. I do, especially in C2C. Devy, he's a borderline guy for me. I don't know if he has the speed, but he's going to score touchdowns as he did last year. EJ Smith, okay, is going to be out there, Emmett's son. He's highly touted. He was highly touted coming in there. He's a good receiving back. I think he's going to get some receiving work. He looked, when we were watching the game, he looked good. And then as far as like wide receivers goes, I was surprised by this. Elijah Higgins came in last year as a pretty highly touted guy, 6'3", 235, 2 years ago. And he looked like he was getting drafted last year, played a lot of games. And then he actually didn't even get drafted in my recent C2C. Out of 45 rounds, Elijah Higgins did not get drafted. So I don't know if there's something there. I don't know why, but I like the running backs and wide receivers. But as far as Devy goes, it's hard for me to take those guys. Even EJ Smith is kind of a borderline guy. Would you agree, Christian?
Kind of. I mean, I think I'd be willing to take a stab, and it could be just the built-in bias of him being Emmett's son. I mean, you have I drafted Chad Johnson Jr. And not. I mean, there are good reports coming out of Arizona State about him, but yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by Austin Jones mostly because of your intrigue in Austin Jones. If I'm being honest, I want to dive a little deeper into these guys, but I don't have a ton of opinions on them just yet because I actually didn't catch this game, so I don't want to speak out of turn. So Jeff, did you have any thoughts?
Again, another program where David Shaw was the toast of the coaching world a couple of years ago, and it just kind of seems like that magic has been lost a little bit now. Austin Jones, Kevin, again, I think you're leading the train on Austin Jones hype, and same reasons too. I see Felix in the chat talking about McGee, and I go back to the Devy debate, did a great job talking about EJ Smith and his receiving ability, Stanford getting creative, using him as a wide receiver. Certainly those bloodlines get you excited a little bit about being Emmitt Smith's son, and if he's got that receiving ability, that's going to cause NFL teams to have interest in him. It'll be interesting to see which of these guys step forward. If we get that classic Stanford line that they're able to run behind, if they're both able to take a little bit of work. It does seem like they're trying to figure out creative ways to get EJ Smith on the field and give Austin Jones that bell cow role. And, Kevin, it's your backyard. Do you expect that this is a team that's going to push in the Big 12, or is this going to fall back again still?
I think when you look at the Pac-12, what's in that offense and how well they are, and I think Arizona State will be better. Some of these other groups, I don't see it. 8 wins probably be a good barometer for them. 7 to 8 wins. Tanner, to Felix, credit to you guys. I mean, he went 6 for 8 for 65 yards and a touchdown. The thing I like about Austin is he can catch out of the backfield. But the thing I worry about with EJ Smith is that Stanford's offense is never creative. They are never creative. They line up and they run, and that's it. And it's very vanilla, right? And so the only thing, yes, if you get EJ Smith the ball, he does look good in those spaces as receiver and stuff. But do they have that creative ability to do that to where it actually matters in your C2C leagues? Devy, yeah, you could draft EJ Smith and hope that he breaks out next year. But I think Austin Jones is a starter. I think he's done enough and he showed that. And we know Shaw, he's loyal. He's not moving on from Austin Jones based on what he's done. There's really no reason to, but I would say you need to get Smith the ball too. It should be more 50-50, but it's probably going to be 60-40, 70-30, to be honest. Yeah. That's just my opinion of it. They're okay. They're a very average Pac-12 team, which is not like a SEC average. So that's just one of those things. Yeah. Anything more on these games?
No, it's, again, just kind of teams stuck in the middle. It just really seems like. So we'll see what they go.
So what we're going to do now is a little bit different. What we're going to talk about is ADP, and we're going to be looking at guys, 5 different prospects. We're going to go through them and talk about how they're getting drafted right now, too high or too low, and we're going to go through these guys, and we'll give you your ADP and where they're at. And the ADP came from Devy Watch. Definitely take a look at them. Their website, great resource, especially for ADP. And I will say this, though. ADP matters less in Devy and C2C than it does in NFL drafts. ADP doesn't necessarily matter because guys like me, Jeff, and Chris, we're gonna get our guys. Like I don't necessarily like look at ADP because you can't say, oh, I know he'll be here around 3 because gosh, I saw Malik Willis recently going to 101 in the Devy draft, the Devy depleted draft. Like he went first overall, and you would never expect that based on where he's going in certain drafts. So I think that when we talk about ADP, we got to put things in perspective. But our first guy here, Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech, sophomore running back. He's 5'11", 200. Last year, we saw him at 355 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. He was a receiving threat. Right now, he's getting drafted in the first round, 7th pick in the first round. He's going as running back 4. Okay, so he's looking at running back 4 right now. I'm going to go with Jeff first. Is that too high, too low? And we're going to throw on his highlights as we talk about this guy.
So for me, that is just slightly too high. So it's just, I've got him at 9. So we're splitting hairs here. And like you mentioned, you're going to get your guys. And it really, if you're doing these Devy drafts or the C2C format right after your draft, you're kind of projecting towards the future and filling some of the needs that you walked out of your draft, the NFL startup draft version, and you weren't able to fill. So again, he's my 9. So if to say he's 7.88 would be a little bit too high.
Christian, what do you think?
I think it's a good spot for him. I'm trying to pull up my rankings right now, but my computer is failing me. Sorry. I think it's a good spot. So I actually like him a little more than consensus. I've got him at 8 overall, so it's perfect. It's not too high, it's not too low. We'll call it a push here.
Okay, no, I think that's fair. So he's getting basically drafted right now. Tank Bigsby's going first. Obviously, Breece Hall's going there. But Gibbs is getting drafted higher than Isaiah Spiller. Are you guys okay with that, or do you feel like Spiller would be the better option?
Spiller would be the better option, in my opinion. You're a year closer to getting him actually there, and I just think he's the bigger back that kind of projects more towards that bell cow.
Okay,
yeah.
Christian,
I agree.
thing?
Yeah, Spiller's better.
I think that's the only thing that kind of stops me a little bit. I think I would take Spiller right now, but Gibbs is talented. So that's the only thing that when I looked at it, I said he'd probably be one less running back behind. I'd rather take Spiller, the sure thing, and win there, especially in Devy, because I'm going to win. I want to win, so I want Spiller early. That's just kind of like that's how it works there. So I'd say it's a little high for me just based on who was going behind him. Our next guy, we have to, of course, talk about Ohio State every year, every episode, but we got TreVeyon Henderson. I think it's actually a good discussion here. He's 5'11", 195. He's a freshman, true freshman coming in. He doesn't have 2020 season last year. He's a freshman. His ADP right now is running back 6. So ADP is about 16, so middle of the second round. But running back 6 is pretty high for a true freshman that some people say he won't start. So we're going to start with Jeff because he's in Ohio State territory. There's a lot of people. I was on a podcast last night. They talked about him. He won't even start. He's a bad pick. You don't take him that high. What do you think?
It's close. I've got him at, I think he's 13 or 14 in my rankings. So that would technically mean that this is too high. It's one of those that he's really just a gamble where if he projects forward, if he breaks out, he's going to be the Bijan, or he's going to be right behind Bijan in terms of running back rankings. And so everybody's going to be all over him. So this might be the lowest possible point of entry that you might have really in his career. But at the same time, if he gets stuck behind Master Teague, Steel Chambers, or somebody else steps forward, then it's going to be, people might be a little bit more hesitant on him just because those backs are viewed as not being exactly special backs. Whereas TreVeyon Henderson is somebody that we are all excited about, waiting to see what happens. But I'd love to see where you guys land.
If you're not watching on YouTube or the video of this, I will say this: go look up TreVeyon Henderson's highlights in high school. I caught myself watching this. While I was doing this today, I just sat there and watched it for like 20 minutes. Like, it is phenomenal what he did against these boys in high school. Now, can he translate that to college? I think he can, because he's going to get the frame and he's going to be there. I think the biggest worry I have is, like, they're not going to start him right away. So C2C-wise, sure. But when you're looking at where Bijan and those other guys went, they went a little lower. Okay, but you just look at his breakaway speed and what he can do. He's a phenomenal football player. Like, I love watching him play, so I don't mind it. I mean, there's a pretty good tier break. So out there listening, I mean, we talked about Robinson, Hall, Bigsby, Gibbs, Spiller. But after that, it's got to be Henderson, right? Because are you going to draft Eric Gray, Kyron Williams, Kendall Milton, Zachary Evans over him? Maybe Zachary Evans, but I don't think I would, right? I don't think I have the cojones to do that. I think I got to take TreVeyon.
So I would.
You would?
I would take Evans, and then I would also take Kyron, but we know how much I like Kyron compared to consensus. And I know the size is a concern. So with Travion, I guess like where I get a little concerned, yes, I think he's a very good Devy pick, but what happens if the opportunity cost was, a Hall of Fame wide receiver at that spot, right? Or even like another running back that actually hits. It's very much so a lottery ticket. And I think I would rather weigh a class like the 2022 class so that I can get that immediate production, capitalize on that value, and then maybe package that with someone for Travion when his value actually is kind of lower, right? So if he doesn't start, I don't think you have to draft him there. Well, clearly you do because everyone is, but I think at some point his value will dip a little bit because I don't think he starts right away. I think they'd probably be better off starting him, but I mean, freaking Mayan Williams is going to get run for whatever reason, Master Teague, and like these guys are not, they're going to be on the field. So it's a little high for me. It's right in that area though. So I don't want to come off as a Travion hater because I love his game, but that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, I think it's right. I think it depends on what you think of Evans. Where I'm really high on Evans, I don't know. Like I feel like when I'm looking at this, like the higher ceiling, they're pretty close for ceilings. I think Henderson's floor is a little higher though, just because I think he's more talented. But I want to give a shout out to Mayan Williams. I still like Mayan Williams. I have Mayan Williams somewhere, like on a campus to camp roster out there. I do think he's okay. So I do think he's going to be valuable there. But like you said, to your point, you could trade for him later. In every Devy draft that I've gone through so far this offseason, he's winning the top 3. In a depleted draft, he's winning the top 3. So if you want him, you're going to have, and then that's hard. You got to wait on him for a long time. And as we've seen with Journey Brown, other guys, a lot of things can happen, unfortunately, to where that hurts your value. So you got to be very careful with that one. All right, well, we're going to go to the next hot topic guy that everybody's loved. We're going to go Christian Frick because he's our quarterback guru. Christian's our guy when we talk about quarterback. So that's Malik Willis, 6'1", 215. He has a pretty good size, actually. I was impressed by that. He's 64% completion percentage, 2,200 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He has that Konami rushing, 944 yards and 14 touchdowns. Right now in startups, he's going Superflex startup. ADP is 110 and QB 21, which what we've actually seen is it's risen. So this last month, it's up to 85. So his value is definitely, his draft stock's definitely going up. But QB 21, let's just stick with the average. What do you think about that, Christian?
Man, I kind of like it. And if not for like what he is right now, but what you can project him to possibly be, I think with the guys that are going around him, I think by far he has one of the higher ceilings. Plus, like I just talked about, he's a 2022 guy. He's coming out this year, and if not, I mean, then we're into some scary territory, right? I'm sure he has an extra year of eligibility, but if he puts it all together, I think you're looking at a first-round NFL draft pick. I know that sounds crazy right now, and I don't have him ranked that way, but in NFL draft circles, he's very, very polarizing, right? So there are people who think he's awful, and there are people who see the Trey Lance level rise coming for him. Problem is Trey Lance is also like 4 years younger than him or 3 years younger than him. So it's scary waters, but that's kind of the area that I'd be comfortable with it. Any higher, I probably would say I'm out. Jeff, what do you think?
I think he's going to be gone before 110. I think that he's gotten the blessing of the right people from what I've seen on social media and in some circles. And so I think that he's going to be gone in most drafts well before the 110. He just seems to be skyrocketing it up. And I know that you mentioned Trey Lance, and maybe it's some of that. Maybe everybody is just projecting towards who the next Trey Lance is going to be. And he stands out as the small school guy that's athletic. And so that's kind of what's happening with that. But yeah, it does seem like this. Maybe the data is a little bit outdated in terms of. I would be surprised to join a Devy or a C2C draft and see him last until 110 right now.
Yeah, like I said, I think his value is going up. But this is a good question for you, Christian. Then let's roll with this. So Malik Willis is getting drafted around like Phil Jerkovich from Boston College. I'm not drafting Phil. I would draft Malik over that. But here's some other guys. What about Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina? Who would you rather have?
I think they're back to back in my rankings. I think Willis. I think.
Jeff, what about you? McCall or Willis?
I'd take Willis.
Okay. All right. Next guy who's getting drafted a little bit behind that, Harrison Bailey from Tennessee. So more of a prototypical quarterback, not necessarily like Willis's Konami stuff. And we're talking about fantasy here. Jeff, where would you go with that? Because he's like 5 picks later.
Tennessee is
a dumpster fire.
There's a dumpster fire, and so I'm going to take Willis just in sooner and that rushing floor.
Okay. Christian, what do you think?
I'd take Bailey. I'd take Bailey easily, actually. And we know how high I am on Bailey, though. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess.
Well, I'm higher. So I would take Bailey, too, because his talent. God, his talent. I know Tennessee's trash, but his talent is there. But those are kind of where he's going at. But like I did say, he went 101 in a recent Devy draft I did. Now, then he went in the 3rd round of the Devy draft I did after that. So it was weird how his value is just, people just rolling with it. Like, I don't know what to expect. I really don't.
Hey, I think if you get a first-round NFL draft pick, then anywhere in that range that you pick him is great. Because, again, you talk about value. And again, with ADPs and stuff like that, you don't always look at value. But if you get a first-round draft pick, you're flipping him for way more than, like, the 80 range, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, that's fair. All right, next guy. Rondell Robinson. He was at Nebraska. He transferred. He's going to Kentucky now. 5'10", 185. He had 51 receptions, 461 yards, and 1 touchdown. 46 attempts, 240 yards and touchdown. He's actually going as wide receiver 22 right now, which I'm going to say is surprisingly high. We'll see what you guys think here. What do you think of Rondell, Jeff?
That is really starting to feel very aggressive to take him in that, you were looking at a 5th or 6th round pick. I don't know how I project him to the next level. So the size is one, and how he's used is another issue. They've kind of used him all over the field in Nebraska, which can lead to some excitement, but at the same time, it's one of those, like, is he a Tavon Austin guy? And we obviously didn't see that happen in fantasy. Is he just kind of a college guy, that college gadget guy? So there's just a lot of questions about how Kentucky is going to use him and ultimately what his role would be at the NFL level. But Christian, what do you got for me?
Yeah, that's way too high. Like significantly, like I would never, ever have a share. And it's no slight to him. Like, I think he is a dynamic playmaker. But like you mentioned, his size is not NFL size. I say that, and Tutu Atwell was a freaking 2nd-round pick this year. So maybe I don't know what NFL size is. And Rondale Moore and Elijah Moore, like all these guys, I think we might be in an age where size doesn't matter as much to NFL teams. LOL. But I still just don't see him as like a good NFL draft pick. I think he's probably a day 2, day 3 guy. So picking him that highly, I just can't get behind it. I don't like it.
No, I think it's just it's too high. It's way too high. But just to give you everybody perspective, like who's getting drafted after him. So this is after Ja'Cory Brooks from Alabama, freshman wide receiver. I would definitely take Ja'Cory Brooks over Rondale Robinson. Parker Washington from Penn State, who I actually have slowly become a fan of. Theo Weiss, EJ Williams is getting drafted after him. Jaden Hasselwood, Zay Flowers. Like, these guys are getting drafted after him. And make no mistake, he's going to Kentucky. Kentucky is a terrible passing offense. They're going to run the ball, Chris Rodriguez. They're going to pound that ball there. I don't even really know who their quarterback's going to be, to be honest with you. It can be a lot of it. Maybe our boy Joey Gatewood from Auburn, who I still have hope for, but he transferred there 2 years ago. It looked like he may be competing there. It may be Bo Allen, maybe their sophomore kid, but he's going into an offense that doesn't seem like it would fit him very well. And so I think that's way too high comparing some of the guys' wide receivers. I would rather take Ainias Smith from Texas A&M way later. It's the same profile, but it's better value in ADP wise, right? Right, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I have there. And then our last guy here is just because I felt bad, we got to throw a tight end here, is Jaleel Billingsley, 6'4", 230, Alabama tight end. He's actually getting drafted as tight end 4 right now, which will show you everything you kind of need to know. Technically, I guess tight end 3 because Gilbert's not a tight end anymore. But 18 receptions, 287 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not a lot of he's getting drafted pretty high for maybe not a lot of production. I know Alabama tight ends don't always produce. Christian, what do you think about Billingsley?
That's too high, man. And here's the thing with Billingsley too, that he might lose tight end eligibility as well. I mean, there are questions about what position he's going to play at the next level. He's a very thin frame tight end, and I don't know that I project him as a tight end at the next level. So then you lose your tight end eligibility and you're drafting him at what? Like that's around the wide receiver 20 range. So yeah, I'm out on that. He's my tight end 7 in my rankings. So just way too high.
Jeff, what do you think?
This is another guy that I have on the C2C roster of depth. So I'm sure that I would not be. So, I wouldn't do what I'm doing in the C2C draft. So I don't know that I would have him on my roster. And we saw Brevin Jordan, or whatever happened with him. And whether or not Jabril Billingsley would be projected to be used at tight end would be really questionable. And I think that you've hit a great point.
Yeah, that's too hard. Just draft Cade Otton, guys. Like, would you please just give my boy Cade Otton from Washington some love? That's like 4 rounds later. You might as well just draft Cade, right?
Trey McBride instead.
Okay, yeah. Or Trey McBride. Or, yeah, I know. Like, draft one of our guys. Listen to us. Except for Jeff. Jeff drafts all these guys. So just listen to Jeff, too. And to Billingsley. And
I'm starting to think it's not random why these guys get included in this show. I'm just saying, in a universe of 1,000 guys, it seems
I'm not in that draft, though. It's not my fault.
Yeah, it's true. And I don't put them in here.
We got a mole going on.
I'm not in that draft, okay? I didn't mention Brew McCoy tonight. Like, we're not talking about
that's another great pick that I made. So we can just do a whole show on Jeff's C2C roster, and you can talk about the great trade he did to go up and get Spencer Rattler over Sam Howell, and now everything's just coming up, Jeff. So it's just great.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got that out. But just draft Cade Otton or Trey McBride a little later, guys. Like, that's all you got to do. I just think that's too high for a guy that maybe not be a tight end. Could go to wide receiver. Could maybe not be even the best tight end on his roster right now. So, like, I think Billingsley's a little too high. And again, if you're in a Devy and it's not tight end premium, I'm pretty much not taking a tight end. Like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I think I saw Jalen Weidemeyer go like 105 in a depleted draft. I still think that's too high. I mean, especially with the situation, unless it's a Pitts situation, but none of these guys are Pitts. Like, now that we're going to see that happening. So those are basically our ADP, too high or too low. Gibbs 7, he's around 7. Travion Henderson's around 2. Malik Willis, we think that's probably pretty low because based on value that he's probably going to get. Rondale Robinson way too high, and Billingsley, we don't know what's going on there except for Jeff loves him. All right, Jeff, let's break us down and try that next section of the show.
Absolutely. So this show is broken into 3 different games here at the end. The winner of each game is going to be awarded a hypothetical poker chip. Whoever finishes the show with the most chips is going to receive the turnover chain of immunity. And I'm so happy that Kevin is back because we can play the games now, and he is our reigning champion. So the loser will go to our good old McDonald's Happy Meal bucket of death again. Rest in peace, Jamie Pruitt's Tennessee program. No relation, but certainly open McDonald's sponsorship. Missed a pick, and we will hit the dry erase. We'll figure out some sort of punishments. I know a couple episodes ago, if you missed it, I did some terrible things to myself, and it's worth going back and checking out. But Christian's going to start us off with the sportsbook rundown.
Yep. Can't wait for football, guys. That's what I have to say about the sportsbook rundown. Today's episode, we're covering it all. We have an NBA game, a Major League Baseball game, a rugby match game, question mark, WNBA game, and then some golf. Yeah, we're getting into some golf. Shout out to the PGA Tour that was here like about 15 minutes from me last week, and I could have gotten tickets and I didn't go because I don't know why. I should have gone. It would have been fun. But the first game is the Nets versus the Bucks game, game 3. Now the Bucks look pretty much done, but Charles Barkley last night said they might still have some fight. So Jeff, who are you picking in the Nets versus Bucks game 3?
I'm going to pick the Nets. I don't really know how the Nets got all the pieces that they have, but, good for them. And so I think that I'm going to take them.
I'm going to go with the Bucks because if they're going to win any game, it's going to be this one. And I want to beat Jeff, so I'm going to go opposite.
I watched some of this game. Unfortunately, I'm going Nets. I don't I think they sweep. It was bad. All right. Major League Baseball. San Francisco Giants versus Texas Rangers. We've got some interleague play going on. Heck yeah. This is the game tomorrow on the 9th, so I have to specify that. Jeff, who you picking?
Well, I'd love to get the pitching matchups. I know Kevin's got the pipeline to Triple Play Fantasy, and they're out doing all kinds of stuff over there. I see him wearing his shirt, so I'm sure he's already done the research and he knows who's going on the hill. So I'd love to know who is going to be pitching in this game.
Yeah, I don't know, Jeff. That's going to be tough for you. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Oh, man, hanging me out to dry. And I don't even know if these teams are any good at all. So
I got you. Hang on.
Okay. Yeah, we want to bring the information to the people, and we want them to have the most well-rounded and educated that they can be before they go and place these bets. That's kind of our goal in this segment. So if we can have these pitching matchups, that might help.
It's Long versus Gibson. I don't know who's on what side, to be honest.
I don't know who Long
Gibson's
is.
on the Rangers.
I don't know who Gibson is or Long, so I'm going to take the Rangers.
All right. Okay. I'm taking my NL West leading Giants. I haven't watched the game all year.
Are they better than the Rangers? Which team's better?
I have no idea, but I'm taking the Giants.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the Rangers because it looks like Gibson, he's 4-0. With the 2.06 ERA, and I'm gonna bet on that. That sounds like he might be a candidate for a Cy Young here. If he's in the AL, so he has a shot. So yeah, Rangers, let's do it. All right, rugby, Scarlets versus Edinburgh, the Rainbow Cup. Who you picking, Jeff?
I know Edinburgh has been really struggling. They've lost 5 of their last 6. And I know the Scarlets are bringing lock forward Jake Ball into this. He got into a big fight a couple days ago. It was 4 days ago with Alan Wynn Jones that they threw some fisticuffs and it was a whole hubbub. But I'm going to take the Scarlets to pull it out because Edinburgh has been struggling so badly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Edinburgh. I think it's Edinburgh. Just because I want to be different, and I'm gonna watch this shit. I'm telling you guys right now, it's on Saturday, I believe. I haven't watched rugby in years, but I'm gonna get an E on my chest, and I'm rocking it this Saturday.
We need
football back. We need
Scarlets. I'm picking the Scarlets.
We need football.
We definitely do. All right, WNBA, probably the best game on the docket here. So Los Angeles Sparks versus Minnesota Lynx. Jeff, who you taking?
Well, I know the Sparks, they have a really good scoring distribution between Candace Parker at 14.7 points per game, Chelsea Gray at 14 points per game, and Namika Okwanu with that 13.7 points per game. So I'm going to take the Sparks and the balanced scoring that they're bringing into this matchup.
Jeff, do you know that Candace Parker doesn't play for the Los Angeles Sparks anymore?
Well,
she plays for Chicago.
There's stats when I looked it up. I don't know where the stats are from. But
I'm going to go with the Lynx. I'm going with the Lynx.
I am too.
She get traded?
I think she just got let go, and then I
missed the transactions.
All right. So yeah, I'm picking the Lynx for reasons. Who knows? We're gonna cross our fingers. All right. The Palmetto Championship. We're gonna pick a golfer to finish ahead of the others listed. So the golfers, stay with me: Jason Duffner, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, JB Holmes, Kevin Kisner, and Nick Watney. That is the best I've ever done with names I've never seen before. All right, Jeff, who you picking?
So I'm taking Matthew Fitzpatrick. I know he missed the cut at our dear old Memorial Tournament here in town, but he was 23rd in the in the PGA Championship a couple weeks back, and he was 4th a month ago in the RBC. So I'm taking Matthew Fitzpatrick.
I'm going Tommy Fleetwood. I'm going to go with him. I like Fleetwood. We'll see. He's got to work on that short game, though, just like I do.
Yep, I need to work on my entire game. Kevin Kisner.
All right.
Again, I don't have a ton of analysis, but That'll do it for the Sportsbook Rundown, thank God. So I assume that I'm going to get the punishment next week. I think we all assume that at some level, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. So we just lost all of our listeners, but we're going to go to prospect poker now. We're going to start talking about college football again, I promise. We'll be getting into it. And so our next segment is prospect poker. So we're going to be playing poker and going over this. The rules of the game are simple. It's going to be poker. Okay, we toss 3 cards in there. But before we reveal our cards, what we're going to do is talk about this year some contenders and pretenders heading into the 2021 season. So they came out with a way too early top 25 mock. So we went through and picked teams that we think can contend for a championship and that are kind of pretenders out there. So Christian, why don't you give your first contender?
Yeah, this is something that I mentioned a little bit last week, but Oklahoma, I think this is the year. So Oklahoma has everything going in the right direction. They always do, right? And this is very, very contingent on Spencer Rattler taking a step forward. I think what we saw in the spring game was not ideal, and I definitely think that he needs to be better within structure. But if he can be better within structure now with Eric Gray also in the backfield, you've got weapons all over the field for them, and their defense is actually pretty good. They have one of the best edge defenders returning in Nick Bonito. So I think that Oklahoma is going to get over the hump this year. I think they're going to win a playoff game. I think there's a good chance that they win the national championship, especially with everyone else in that sort of retool. So I'm going with Oklahoma.
All right, so our first flip here, we've got a jack of diamonds, a 6 of spades, and a 10 of diamonds, and Christian is going to toss up a jack of hearts. So Christian, I know Christian he went 6-0, I believe it is, in the NBA games from 2 weeks back, so he's got the first chip, and he's throwing up 2 jacks here, and that is going to leave me going next with, of course, you are going to make me pick a team that is undervalued and underappreciated, and I think they're something like 5 or 6 in the poll. And you know what? They're 5th or 6th in the poll every single year. And I don't understand these preseason polls because the Buckeyes, you go back to the history, and when's the last time they finished 6th other than a train wreck year when everybody thought Urban Meyer was going to get fired in the preseason? They're not going to finish 6th. They're not going to finish 5th. They're going to make the college football playoff because simply nobody in the Big Ten is going to beat them. So there's concerns. Is it going to be CJ Sprout or is it going to be, my boy Kyle? And I think it doesn't really matter which ones it's going to be because the talent, all the rest of the team is good enough. We saw Chris Olave come back. We saw Thayer Munford come back. All these guys are coming back on a mission. Everybody was upset last year because the season was try to take away from them. They had to play Alabama. They were missing half their roster. Literally 50 guys were out for COVID because they don't test down in Alabama, and somehow there was not a COVID positive guy on the entire team. But anyways, the team is coming back on a mission, and the Ohio State Buckeyes are my choice for the most undervalued team. And I'm going to flip up a card, and it is a 3 of clubs, and I'm just off to a tremendous start, and it's Kevin's turn.
That's what you get for yelling at us right there for 5 minutes about Ohio State's school ranking. You're killing me.
Everyone take 2 shots this
Yeah. Oh, my God. Christian, remind me never to give him the option to be able to pick Ohio State. That was stupid.
Sounds good.
I screwed that up. All right. So my team is a team I've been talking about a lot. Texas A&M. For me, it comes down to quarterback play. I think the defense is there. Christian can tell you more about their defense. I'm not an IDP guy, but the running backs, they have 3 legit running backs. Devin, Isaiah, and LJ. We got a true freshman coming in. Their wide receiver, if Damon DeMoss can figure it out, and if Smith is there, even Chase Lane. Those kind of solid guys. It's really going to come down to Haynes King. They have Weidemeyer there. If Haynes King can be the quarterback that I think he can be, at least just be kind of a game manager, manage the game, not throw too many turnovers, have that rushing ability, that defense is there, I think they can win the SEC. That's how strongly I feel about Texas A&M. And if they do that, they're going to be in the playoffs. And they should have been in the damn playoffs last year over Notre Dame's squad. So I could see them doing it. So and to be honest, Haynes King is an improvement over Kellen Mond. Sorry, Kellen Mond truthers out there, but it's just a fact. So that's my guy or my team.
Ooh, Kevin's flipping up a 2 of hearts. Kevin's got not much of anything, and Christian is looking very pretty, but
I'm looking good.
All right, let's go to our pretenders. Christian, who is the team you think is getting ranked a little too high right now?
I'm going with the Miami Hurricanes here. And the reason being they have the 12th best title odds this year, and I'm not entirely sure what that's based upon. I think they have some decent weapons, but they also have De'Aaron King leading them, assuming that he's fully healthy. It's a team that they have a great offensive line, so the blueprint is there. The problem is I don't think the execution is going to be there. I didn't see a ton from them last year in terms of things that translate to actual success, and they would have to win the ACC first. And that's just not going to happen. So I just don't understand even why they're in the discussion, I guess. Good luck to them, though. You know, I hope they prove me wrong. I'm going to end every segment like this with that. So
the U is back every year. Every year they're back.
Every year.
One day they'll be back.
So Christian's got 7 of hearts, no help, but he's sitting great with his 2 jacks. And so my undervalued team, or overvalued team, I should say, if I'm going and standing on my steeple for the Ohio State Buckeyes, I'm going to look at the team that they're playing early in the season, the Oregon Ducks. And so while I think there's a lot of talent on the Oregon Ducks, I think Thibodeau certainly could be the first defensive player in the draft. I don't know that they are really going to be running with the Buckeyes, especially with Anthony Brown at quarterback. I'm not sold on him at all. I think that the younger options are much better than him. And so if they lose that Ohio State game, and especially if that game's not close and Anthony Brown's just not the guy, how long is it going to be until Mario Cristobal is willing to pull the plug and put one of these young quarterbacks in? And how many losses end up in the Pac-12? Yeah, I think that's a conference that we're going to get a lot of fun out of Pac-12 after dark. And I think it could be the type of thing where we saw last year with Oregon, where they really struggled after Justin Herbert left to put it really all together. They got there by the end of the year, but it's I think it's going to be a similar situation where they lose that Ohio State game and then maybe lose another game early, and they're just kind of chasing. And I got a 2 of diamonds, and so I just did not get anything.
Yeah, and I don't think I can unless I get it now. I'm done. But anyway, so my kind of pretender is, and it's pretty simple. So I keep it very simple because I know we're running out of time a little bit. It's Iowa State. I saw them ranked as high as 7th. You have Brock Purdy as your quarterback. Like I don't know what to tell you there. Like to me, Iowa State is just not good enough. Their defense isn't going to be good enough. They play with Oklahoma, like Christian talked about. There's just no way they're going to come out of that unscathed. And Brock Purdy is a terrible quarterback. I know my guy Todd Foster loves him, and I unfortunately had to draft him in a C2C because Todd made me. But I mean, he's got 1 year maybe, and he's just not going to be that good. So mine's Iowa State. There is just no way that they're going to be doing that. So I don't see them contending at all in a conference, and definitely not the top 10 team. They'll do what they did last year, lose to a division. Was it a Division 2 team or a low-level Division 1 FBS team? So that's my opinion there. But I think Christian won, so that's unfortunate.
Christian won. Yeah, you had a 9 of something, and it didn't really matter. So Christian won. Christian got the first 2. So Christian got the turnover chain of immunity this week. So Christian's our show winner. We can go ahead and play blackjack real quick, or we're pressed up for time. So I don't know if Christian, if you want to go ahead and give a little bit of FaceTime.
You know, I think. Do you think we have time for just a quick round of blackjack? Maybe no trivia involved.
Yeah.
I just want to play a game of blackjack. It's been a while.
I agree.
I have a fun trivia question if you guys just want to try it together. Like we could just play and then go.
That'd be kind of fun.
So as we play here and as we go through it, I do have a question. So the question is, okay, there's 3 Power 5 teams that have never won 10 games in a season. So there's 3 Power 5 teams that have never won 10 games in a season in their history, of college football. Do you guys know who that is?
Vanderbilt?
Vanderbilt is 1. Yes.
That's pretty good.
Wake Forest?
No, they've won 10. I can give you some hints as we go through here. So Vanderbilt is 1. The other one plays in the Big 12.
Kansas? No, Kansas had that really good year with Todd Reesing.
I'm stumping you a little bit. I just talked about him.
Iowa State?
Iowa State? Really?
Iowa State has never won 10 games in a season.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
What's our hint for the third one?
Your third one is in the Big 10.
Rutgers.
Nope. Rutgers had a good year with our boy from Ohio State.
Chiano.
Chiano.
Illinois.
It starts with an I, but it's not Illinois.
Indiana
has never.
I thought Indiana might have gotten it. I guess no, because it was a COVID year.
Yeah,
they might have gotten there if it was that.
They would have. So Vanderbilt has 4 seasons with 9 wins, and Indiana and Iowa State have each hit 9 wins twice. That's it. So Vanderbilt's actually better.
All right, so Christian busted. He had a 13 and he had a hit, so he busted. Kevin's sitting on 18, so I'll hit before Kevin. I busted, so Kevin is our – good job, Kevin.
That's right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay.
You got a chip.
Showing him how his muscle just made a little bit.
Do you have a 30-second FaceTime, Christian?
I don't have a ton to say. I will say something. I think you guys should all take a break from Twitter. And not because I'm sick of seeing you guys, but rather because I did that over the weekend and I feel very, very refreshed. I'm very excited to create content. And I was feeling like I wasn't excited to create some content or talk football or any of that. So after my little weekend hiatus, I literally shut my notifications off. I know Brandon Lejeune, he always advocates to do this every once in a while, and I second it. It was the best decision I made all weekend, and it's refreshing. Go do that. Highly recommend.
All right, so let's pull here real quick. So, Kevin, you're getting the Texas Rangers. And I got Nick Watney. So, I don't like bad odds. Anyways.
All right. Well, I think we're good to add into Christian sentiment. Yeah, it's good to unplug, right? And not get too wrapped up in this. And if you're on social media too much, sometimes it can consume you a little bit. So, just be you or just make fun of Jeff like I do. That makes me feel better. So next week, we are on June 15th. We'll be back at 9:30, like always, Eastern. Be sure to catch us in the Going for Two family of pods. Hit that subscribe button. Find us on YouTube. Until then, I'm Kevin Coleman, @theboys_22.
I'm Jeff Bell, for whom J. Bell tolls.
And I am Christian Williams @CWilliams.